If you took somebody from sea level to the top of Everest, no supplemental oxygen, no support, they would be unconscious within minutes. Everest is a very inhospitable environment.
Mount Everest, the crown of the Himalayas, is a siren call for adventurers. Its icy spires stretch to the heavens, offering glory to those who conquer it and death to those who underestimate it. For centuries, climbers have sought to stand at its peak, to witness the Earth from the highest point possible. But Everest is no mere mountain. It is a battlefield between human will and the unforgiving forces of nature. Among the many stories written on Everest's frozen slopes are the tales of courageous women who sought to prove that ambition knows no gender. They were pioneers, trailblazers, and dreamers, each with her own reasons for taking on this ultimate challenge. But these women faced not only the dangers of the climb, ice storms, avalanches, and thin air, but also the doubts of a world that questioned their place on the mountain. Their stories are filled with grit and heartbreak, triumph and tragedy. Let us delve deeper into their experiences, exploring not only their final moments but the emotional and physical trials they must have endured on their journeys to Everest. Welcome to our channel. This is the ultimate hub for thrill seekers, where adrenaline meets adventure and limits are meant to be shattered. If you're all about pushing boundaries, chasing the rush, and living life on the edge, you're in the right place. Get ready for heart-pounding action, epic challenges, and the unfiltered world of extreme sports. Let's dive in and ride the thrill together. Hannelore Schmatz, a trailblazer's unyielding spirit. Hannelore Schmatz was not just a climber. She was a symbol of determination and a pioneer for women in mountaineering. In 1979, as a 39-year-old German woman, she set out to summit Everest with her husband, Gerhard, and a team of climbers. In those days, women were a rare sight on the mountain, and Hannelore must have felt the weight of expectations, not only to reach the summit, but to prove that women belonged on Everest's icy slopes. Hannelore's journey was marked by unimaginable challenges. Each day of the climb pushed her body to its limits as the air thinned and temperatures plummeted. She must have felt the biting cold seep into her bones, her muscles screaming for rest, her lungs burning with the effort to breathe in air that offered little oxygen. Despite these hardships, she pressed on, driven by the singular goal of reaching the top of the world. When she finally stood on the summit, she must have been filled with a mixture of triumph and relief, a fleeting moment of glory before the descent began. The way down was treacherous. Exhaustion crept over Hannelore as she navigated the steep, icy terrain. The wind howled mercilessly, and every step felt heavier than the last. Her body begged for rest, but she was still far from safety. Near the South Col, she could go no further. Deciding to rest for just a moment, she sat down, her mind likely filled with a mix of fear and hope that she might regain the strength to continue. But Everest does not forgive weakness. The cold claimed her as she rested, her body frozen in place. For years, her upright figure, eyes wide open, became a haunting sight for climbers who passed her on their own quests. What must she have thought in her final moments? Did she regret the climb? Or did she find peace in knowing she had reached the summit? Hannelore's story is not just one of tragedy. It is one of courage and perseverance, a testament to the human spirit's unyielding desire to push boundaries. Frances Arsenyev, the sleeping beauty of Everest. Frances Arsenyev's story is one of love, ambition, and unimaginable suffering. In 1998, she set out to become the first American woman to summit Everest without supplemental oxygen, a goal that pushed the limits of human endurance. Climbing without oxygen is a feat few attempt, as it leaves the climber vulnerable to the effects of altitude sickness, hypoxia, and exhaustion. Frances climbed with her husband, Sergei, and together they reached the summit after days of grueling effort. As she stood at the top, Frances must have felt an overwhelming sense of achievement. But the summit is only half the journey, and the descent is often where climbers face their greatest challenges. The thin air had taken its toll on Frances, leaving her weak and disoriented. As night fell, she and Sergei became separated. Alone on the mountain, Frances faced the brutal cold and suffocating thinness of the air. What must have gone through her mind as the hours stretched into an endless night? Did she believe Sergei would find her, or did despair begin to creep in? By morning, Frances was found by Uzbek climbers, barely conscious and unable to move. They tried to help her, sharing their oxygen and attempting to carry her down, but the effort was too much. Frances must have realized the truth as the climbers were forced to leave her. She would die on the mountain. Her final hours were spent alone, her body succumbing to the cold. Her husband, Sergei, died trying to save her, falling to his death in his desperate attempt to reach her. Francis's body remained on the mountain for years, earning her the nickname Sleeping Beauty due to her serene appearance in death. Her story is one of love and sacrifice, a heartbreaking reminder of the thin line between ambition and tragedy. Yasuko Namba, a triumph, overshadowed by disaster. For Yasuko Namba, climbing Everest was the culmination of a lifelong dream. At 47, she had already climbed 6 of the 7 summits, the highest peaks on each continent, and Everest was her final challenge. As a Japanese businesswoman, Yasuko must have faced not only the physical demands of the climb, but also the societal pressures of balancing her adventurous spirit with her responsibilities back home. When Yasuko reached the summit in May 1996, she became the oldest woman to achieve this feat at the time. She must have felt a profound sense of pride as she stood at the peak, gazing out at the world below. But her triumph was short-lived. As she descended, a deadly blizzard swept over the mountain. Visibility disappeared, and Yasuko, along with several other climbers, became stranded in the death zone. With temperatures dropping to life-threatening levels, Yasuko's body began to shut down. She was found huddled with Beck Weathers, another climber, but while Weathers survived, Yasuko succumbed to hypothermia. What must Yasuko have felt as the storm raged around her? Did she cling to hope for rescue? Or did she accept her fate as the cold overcame her? Her story became part of the infamous 1996 Everest disaster, a tragedy that exposed the deadly risks of commercial climbing. Shriya Shah-Klorfine, a childhood dream. Shriya Shah-Klorfine grew up in Nepal with a dream of climbing Everest, but her journey to the mountain was far from typical. She moved to Canada, where she built a life for herself, but her childhood ambition never faded. In 2012, she finally set out to achieve her dream. Despite having limited climbing experience, the climb was brutal. Shriya struggled with the altitude, the cold, and the exhaustion, but she refused to turn back. When she finally reached the summit, she must have felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Yet, her decision to press on despite warnings about her oxygen supply would prove fatal. During the descent, Shriya ran out of oxygen. Weak and unable to continue, she collapsed on the mountain. What must have gone through her mind in her final moments? Did she think of her family? Of the dream she had chased for so long? Her body remained on the mountain for months, a tragic reminder of the cost of chasing dreams without fully understanding the risks. Kalpana Dash, a pioneer's final ascent. Kalpana Dash was a trailblazer, a woman who dared to dream big in a society where such ambitions were rare. As the first woman from Odisha, India, to summit Everest in 2008, she became a symbol of hope and inspiration. But Kalpana was not content to stop there. In 2019, she returned to Everest, driven by the desire to conquer it once more. The climb was chaotic, marked by overcrowding and delays. Kalpana must have felt the strain of waiting in the death zone, her body weakening with each passing minute. When she finally reached the summit, it must have been bittersweet, as the descent would prove to be her undoing. Kalpana fell ill during the descent, her strength sapped by the harsh conditions. Despite the efforts of her Sherpas, she died just above the balcony area. What must she have felt in her final moments? Did she regret her decision to return, or did she find solace in knowing she had lived a life of courage and ambition? Lessons from Everest. The stories of Hannelore, Francis, Yasuko, Shriya, and Kalpana are not just tales of tragedy. They are reminders of the extraordinary strength of the human spirit. These women faced unimaginable challenges, both physical and emotional, as they pursued their dreams. Their legacies endure, inspiring climbers and adventurers to reach for greatness while respecting the harsh realities of nature. Their fates are a testament to the cost of ambition, the fragility of life, and the need to honor both the mountain and those who dare to climb it. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride, thrill seekers. If you felt the adrenaline, make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe so you never miss an epic moment. Join our crew and let's keep chasing the thrill together. Until next time, stay bold, stay fearless, and keep pushing those limits.